So the next thing is to briefly just discuss near-death experiences, okay? Now, whatever you think of near-death experiences, if they are real, then they indicate the mind is immaterial, that is separate from the body and survives death. Now, the case for near-death experiences, that is the existence of at least some initial credible indications of afterlife consciousness, is given by philosopher and theologian Gary Habermas. In his chapter in the book on given there, I think it's the Minding the Brain. In his chapter, Habermas presents evidence for the reality of near-death experiences using plenty of examples with corroborative accounts that are difficult to explain in any other way than that the near-death experiences happen as claimed. According to Habermas, most near-death experience critiques and alternative hypotheses tend not to focus on the outside corroborative part, instead postulate conditions that are internal to the individual near-death experiencer, such as oxygen deprivation, temporal lobe seizure, drugs, exaggerations, false statements, hallucinations, or either a dying or awaking brain. That is, they rely chiefly upon the interior physiological conditions and of psychological states of the near-death experiencer's mind or body. Now, limiting himself to the cases referred to in his essay alone, there are over 300 evidential near-death experiences cases, that is, where external circumstances argue for their veracity. Hence, Habermas argues that almost every one of them must be mistaken for the natural supposition against near-death experiences cases to work. He states, most evidential near-death experience cases seem to occur during a state of cardiac arrest due to ventricular fibrillation. It is exceptionally well documented that during such a condition, the heart stops and at least higher cortical brain activity usually ceases in a matter of just 10 to 15 seconds or so afterwards. Now, I've seen this happen and many years ago, and believe me that when the person actually arrived, believe me, when it happens, that person is not thinking believe me, this person is not in a state to observe anything going on in a room. Now, mathematician and philosopher William Dembski discusses informational realism and touches on the near-death experiences. He sees the ontology is responsible for the existence of a mind-brain problem that is materialism, as those artificially restricting the creation and flow of information. He gives an example of this restriction of information flow accounts given by people having had a near-death experience. You can tell what was talked about in other rooms during the near-death experiences. With materialism, this is impossible. If you're essentially dead, you can't know what's going on in your room, let alone another room. And so such information must be through some subsequent communication of the information via ordinary channels. Now, Dembski points out that materialism makes demands on what types of information certain types of information sources can generate. For example, that the mind must be reduced to mechanisms, as materialism sees all things as composed of body parts that operate by mechanical principles. Now, in regards to near-death experiences, if a person can look down upon their body from the ceiling and observe things going on in a room or other rooms or places, then that is impossible from a materialist perspective if the person is essentially dead. It indicates an immaterial mind that is separate from body and also a mind that survives death.
And so truly fascinating. I love how you wrap things up more or less with the evidence from near-death experiences. You went into some of Gary Habermas's work. And when somebody truly looks into that, Peter, the evidence is undeniable. I've read stories. I've heard Gary Habermas himself point out. I've recently read a book called Imagine Heaven, where you have these stories of people who die for a time and they're not dreaming or anything like that, because they leave their body. They can see their body, but then they move over to the next room. And after the fact, they're able to explain in detail the specifics of what was going on in the next room. And then these details are
even if you
confirmed.
weren't dead, if you can leave your body and look down upon it, that still indicates your mind is immaterial and separate from the body. So it still proves materialism. So if because in the materialist view, you have to have your eyes have, you can only see things through your eyes. Okay, so you can't look down and point yourself from the ceiling if your eyes are in your body. If so yeah.
I find militant critics of biblical creation, which is what we believe in, they like to spend a lot of time focusing on topics and data points that they think they have something good on. They think they have an like the fossil record, right? The fossils are fickle. They can tell any story you want. But when it comes to evidence like this, they kind of have to run from it. I don't see them addressing it. They don't really have any strong answers to these challenges, Peter. Only the creation model can account for this.